Tom Hales, Roy Higgins, George Moore and Darby Munro amongst the jockeys. The trainers, Bart Cummings, Colin Hayes, Jack Holt, James Scobie and Tommy Smith, and the associates, Bill Collins, Sir Adrian Knox, Sir Chester Manifold, Banjo Patterson and the Thompson family of Widden Stud. So they are the 20 inductees to the Australian Racing Hall of Fame. They were announced earlier this evening. Race 10 at Ipswich is the last from Queensland this evening, and Mr. Timothy.
Courage under fire, he showed plenty of courage, he's the winner.
Well, Jim, how long have you been calling races?
Probably professionally for about 2 years for Tab Radio, but prior to that, I guess the first ever race I called was a pony race for the South Australian Harness Racing Pony Association, and I did that for about 10 or 12 years.
Now, you had a few drives. How many drives did you had for how many winners?
I don't know how many drives. I reckon it would be around about 200, and I think I had at least 100 before I drove a winner.
So what's your UDR?
0.0001, I think. No, I've had about 5 winners. I have had exactly 5 winners. Good enough to drive a double in that time. But I probably drove for about 5 years and averaged about a drive every 2 or 3 months. So every time I had a drive, it was like having my first drive again.
You become very passionate in your calls and very, I wouldn't say excited, but become very keyed up. Is that the best way to phrase your commentary? Have you modelled your style on anyone?
Probably not really on anyone in particular. I do my own thing. Some people like it, some people don't. But you know, the industry, they either love you or they hate you. But Bill Collins was a guy that I used to listen to when I was a kid. And when he put excitement into the race, it used to just send a shiver up my spine. And that really caught me. And I felt that people would need to, if they did commentate a race, to try and paint a picture for the people that are listening on radio. Now we have the great opportunity to see it on Sky. So people now, the bigger percentage, get to see the actual race. But for those that are sitting at home listening to the radio, just paint the picture and just put a little bit of excitement into it. And maybe I overdo it, I don't know, but sometimes I can't control it, Hilton.
Romantic Girl in front, send me a dream, coming at him now. Romantic Girl hanging on, yeah, it's 14 all right. 14 all right for Romantic Girl, he wins by 1.5 meters. John Justice, big night tonight. Art Gallery takes over, and the favourites home for all money. A second St. Ledger for John Justice, and he gets the Grand Circuit event with it as well. Duome kicks away, he's in front, he should get tired, he's had a tough run, but he's in front. MJT flying home, Duome hanging on, and Duome the man.
What's the best race you've called in terms of quality?
Definitely the Smoke Free Cup. I had the opportunity of calling that in January 2000, and it was a great finish. Sorrento Star, she led most of the way. I think she went a record lead time of 1:13 and a bit for the 2600. She pulled hard. With a lap to go, I thought she was gone, but she only just got pipped right on the post by Safe and Sound. And I spoke with Alan Pfeiffer, the judge there, and he said that the margin would be 10 millimetres, less than half an inch, and that was the biggest race that I've actually called. I have called an Into Dominion, though, in the pony racing.
Now, what about drivers? Who's the best driver that you've seen?
Yeah, we get wrapped up in Jeffrey Webster. He is very good. He seems to have an edge on most of his rivals here in South Australia. Rossi Sugars was excellent at his best in his prime, for sure. But yeah, probably Jeffrey and even his father, Lloyd Webster, very good. But I have seen Dick Webster, but I was only a young kid then and really probably didn't have the knowledge that I have now of assessing how a race should be run and how they should drive. But definitely the Webster family have got quite a few that are up there for sure.
Jeffrey Webster goes for home on Colossimo, and it's another one for Jeffrey Webster. Lex Bromack down the outside, flying home for second.
Race callers have a funny story to tell about something that may have happened during a race or in the broadcast box. Have you got one?
I have actually, and I don't know if we can put this to air, but because I'm a slow thinker and a slow talker and my knowledge is only limited and I tend to slur my words sometimes, there was a horse that I called at the Globe Derby and it was called Graham's Pick. And as it went over the line, I added an R to pick, so I called it Graham's Prick. And I couldn't control it, and anyway, I just couldn't help it, and I started laughing. And lucky it was at the end of the race, and Terry McAuliffe was in the studio, and he cracked up. And normally when you finish a race, they cross to the studio and do the take comments of what they paid, and he couldn't do it. He had to put an ad on. I spoke to Scott Forby, the guy that drove the horse, and he said, "What's the idea you call my horse a prick?" And I said, "Well, I can't help it, Scott." I said, "You should change its name to Graham's Selection." He said, "No, then you'll be calling it Graham's Erection."
Now, you have been heard to sing on Sky Racing.
Yeah, okay. Peter Bain just recently told me that he was listening at home on the home TV, and we had a false start at Globe Derby. And of course, the setup that I've got, I don't know when home TV are crossing to me, and I didn't realise that they were still with me at the time, so I just felt all the relays went back to the studio because I said it's a false start, we'll be back in a minute or two for a restart. And just to take up time, I started singing a tune, and apparently Ryan Phelan had me on telly, and he said, "No, don't give up your day job, Jim, you can't sing."
Well, he's pretty much the same, we all know that, but,
Yeah.
but do you go all right as a singer?
Hopeless, hopeless, no. I'm not much good at anything I do, but I try to do it the best I can.
There we are, Jimmy Jacques speaking with Hilton Donaldson.
Now up to